Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar. I'm Margot Kennedy,
And I'm Christy Brock, and
and
we
we are
are
WeCrew.
WeCree.
We
We
invest
invest in commercial
commercial
real
real
estate.
estate.
So let's see here.
Okay, so this is our disclaimer. We just want to make sure you understand that this is for educational and informational purposes only. We are not trying to solicit you to purchase securities. We're not trying to sell anything here. We just want to share some great info with you. So, a little bit about me. I have over 35 years in real estate experience in all kinds of different areas. Um, I have been a property manager, involved in commercial retail leasing, senior housing. I've done project coordination, and I've worked as a controller for a large senior housing corporation. I've also been I'm a current and have been a past GP on 8 different commercial real estate projects, including the over 1,050 units of self-storage that Christy and I still manage. Also, I have been a Maryland licensed realtor for 24 years. And Christy?
I have been in real estate full time for 24 years. I've been a real estate investor my whole life, as some of you have heard my story. I held a broker's license in California for 20 years, and I've raised a lot of money for real estate deals. I've been GP on 5 deals, 2 of which I am still GP, and that's lead GP on those deals.
Yep.
And as Margot said, we have our self-storage deals together, our 3 self-storage deals together. And I've got my education from Berkeley and my MBA from Cornell. And, we are super excited to be talking to you guys today. But Margot is going to tell you, about our mission and who we are as a company.
So we are all about empowering investors to build passive wealth. And we do this with strategic self-storage investments and also try to offer sellers capital gains friendly exits. We're committed to integrity, innovation, financial security, and through education and partnerships with some of you and others, and our expert execution, we create scalable, recession-resistant investment opportunities, helping our investors achieve long-term financial freedom.
Why self-storage?
Yeah. So self-storage is really a great asset class. One of the things we say about it is that we have sticky customers. Customers that move into self-storage stay. They stay generally for longer than they intend, and they're willing to accept the relatively small rent increases. No one's going to call their friends, pack up their truck, buy pizza and beer for everybody, and move over $6 a month. It just isn't really worth it. The other great thing, which is a big comparison between multifamily, is we have no tenants, no toilets, and no termites. We have customers. They don't live there. We don't have to worry about a lot of the things that you do when you have residential customers. And of course, the buildings are cinder block and steel. So not too many termites are interested in chewing on those. Um, it's easy to increase the NOI through a lot of different ways. We can do it through automation, better management, frequent rent bumps, like we just mentioned, and ancillary income. And we'll talk more about those things further down in the presentation. But it's also a really recession resistant asset class. And we'll talk a bit more about that as well.
And I just want to mention because we always get excited, no tenants, no termites, no toilets. And in one of our properties, we recently had a termite situation, and it was such a non-event because one of the units, the person who was occupying it, they had a lot of wood and they vacated. And we noticed, oh my God, they had termites. But you know what? It was one 10 by 10 unit that all the wood product, was removed. We set off a bomb. Everything is dead. It's steel metal sides.
Yeah.
It's cinder block back. It's a steel roof. And our termite problem was done. That's
Yeah,
what,
and
25 bucks?
right. And the termites were not chomping on our building.
Right. They ate his things that he
Yeah,
brought
not
in.
Right.
So
With the termites. Yeah.
right. That happened about a month or so, 2 months ago. But it's so great because it reminds us why we love
That's
no
right.
tenants, no termites, no
No
toilets.
toilets. Yep. So the self-storage market is growing rapidly. It's currently estimated to be at over $45 billion, and it's expected to grow to about $51 billion by 2030. When we started a few years ago in self-storage, about 10% of households used self-storage. It's now over 11%, getting close to 12%. That percentage is growing every year. And that's just talking about households. That does not include other users, businesses, people with their big toys, their RVs, and so forth. So the number of self-storage facilities in the US is growing, usage is growing, and so it's just a really great place to be.
America loves their stuff, they need their stuff. And self-storage, when we talk about it, it's not just a regular asset class. There's a lot of passion that goes into the reasons behind people need storage.
Mhm.
It's life. Life happens, and because life happens and will always happen, people need storage. Death, divorce, downsizing, dislocation, disease, disaster. These things are going to happen regardless of market conditions, and you can't control it. And so that's one of the reasons that penetration within this category is continuing to increase. Another thing that, we love, and this is just another way to think about it, and Margot touched on it, is our clients are not just, class A or class B or class C. Our clients are everybody. Our potential pool of customers, unlike if you have a multifamily building or an office building, where you just have, doctors just occupy a medical building. Okay, if you have a class A facility, class A people, class B people. We have class A, B, C, everybody all in one facility, and we have businesses. So I think that really contributes to the increasing penetration within this category. And we always love our stuff, whether we need our stuff, whether we want our stuff, we keep our stuff, and then we get more stuff because you inherit stuff and now you can't let go of that stuff. It's just
Right.
this is who we are as a world, as especially as Americans.
Yes. This is one of my favorite slides, and this is showing you how strong self-storage is as an asset class. The um, the blue line, which you can see goes up and down with each economic downturn, is the gross domestic product. And the gold line is self-storage occupancy. And as you can see, even when the economy gets bad, this self-storage occupancy stays strong. It goes up and down a little bit, but it still stays good. And you can see here during the COVID time period, it actually got the highest it's ever been. So self-storage is truly a recession-resistant industry. This particular graph is showing 35 years. So that's a pretty great track record.
Expenses are controllable, income is more controllable, and CapEx is extremely controllable. So when we look at self-storage, or when you look at any commercial real estate investment, payroll is often one of your largest expenses. The way that we look at storage, the way that we run our storage, we actually are able to significantly reduce through automation and technology our payroll expenses. And again, because there's no one there 24/7, because you can automate the lighting system, because there's no toilets, essentially, utilities are extremely low. Our biggest expense is basically the internet when it comes to utilities, that and garbage. And so it's utilities are super low. Our turn costs, we already talked about that. Our termite unit, that unit was turned in about what, a half an hour of the things that the actual work put into it. You can release a unit extremely quickly, and damage is generally very, very minimal. Again, metal and block construction. And when we talk about income, we have great opportunities to not just improve our rental income, but to also have ancillary income. So there's many categories of income that you can have for self-storage. And aside from your rental income, you can have motion sensors inside of units. You can have customer protection plans, which is basically like a tenant protection, tenant insurance when you have a rental unit. You can add parking if you have a big lot. You can do RV and boat parking. There's a lot of other little ancillary incomes that you can add if you have access to your telephone to so people can use their telephone to open and close the gate. There's a fee for that. There's a little fee for so many things, and all of that really adds up.
Right.
Also, as we did on one of our facilities, if you have a vacant retail space, turn it into climate storage. It's already got air, it's already got heat, it already has whatever you need to just do the doors and walls on the inside. Super, super inexpensive and a really big addition to your income stream. And my favorite thing here is capital expenditures. If you purchase a 100-unit multifamily building and you have a 3-year plan to renovate it, because if you're renovating as people move out, it takes about 3 years. And you put in your underwriting, your thought process, okay, it's going to cost me $10,000 per unit to do my renovation. Well, sure, when you do that first 33 units, it's about $10,000 because that's what you plan for. But then what happens? The economy happens to you, tariffs happen to you, the price of steel goes up, the price of your everything just increases. So by the time you're doing unit number 99, it's 13,000, 14,000. That's a 30-40% increase in your costs. Whereas with self-storage, we love it because before we even purchase a facility, we have bids on all of our work that needs to be done. And
Yep.
generally speaking, it takes us about 6 months, 1 year on the long side to do all the work that we need to do. And when we talk about our example, our case study, we'll tell you exactly, what happened, how long it took us, and it's just such a very different and more predictable way to do business. Our capex is far more controlled.
Yeah.
So this chart kind of compares self-storage versus other asset classes. With self-storage, when we're doing our renovations, 6 months, 12 months on the long side. Multifamily, a couple of years. Office can be really fast, but you have multi-year tenants, so you cannot do those improvements and increase your rents nearly as fast. Hospitality can be fast, but you really have to do the whole building. So again, it definitely takes time. Adjusting to unexpected expenses. Because we are month to month, you can adjust very quickly. And in self storage, usually you're hiking rents every 7 months or so. So it's almost twice a year or twice within a 12-month period in some years. It's a very easy way to handle extra expenses as those come along. Other asset classes like multifamily, where you have annual contracts, or office, where you have 5, 10-year contracts, it's very difficult. But hotel is very easy. Hotels also are a lot more work, but they are easier to adjust expenses.
Mhm.
And again, recession resistance, we already showed you the chart. Self-storage is great. The others do not do nearly as well. And ease of management. This is very, very underrated. For our portfolio, we have one property management company nationwide, and you can't do that with other asset classes. As a matter of fact, the way that brokerages are organized, you have teams that take on the whole country. Very few self-storage brokerages are broken up into regions the way they are for other asset classes. So these are all the reasons that, again, we love storage.
So, just to review, like we said, it's a great asset class, and we've just given you a bunch of reasons. There's also a huge, huge market, And the majority of this market right now are unsophisticated owners. They are um, mom and pop shops that purchased 20 or even 30 years ago. And a lot of them have just been coasting. Things are going really well. And they're making what they need to make, and they're not moving on with the times. A lot of them don't have websites. They don't have a lot of the technology that's available, some of the cool add-ons that we can use. So we have a great opportunity to go in and purchase these properties. And as we said, even give them a great recession resistant, I mean, a capital gains, reading the slide at the same time, capital gains friendly way to exit. So this is a great opportunity for us with these types of owners. Like we said, Americans love their stuff. I would bet that almost all of you have had a storage unit at some point, and I would also bet that most of you have had it longer than you planned on. And if you haven't, I know you know someone who has. We talked about how it's a great recession resistant industry, how it's easy to reduce expenses and increase income. And so it's a really great option versus other commercial real estate asset classes, like we talked about. Hmm.
The
The
weekly
weekly
way.
way.
Margot,
So, yeah, so we buy very specific types of properties, and there are plenty of other types of properties out there, but this is what our buy box is and what we found works really well. So we do look for those mom and pop shops. Great stories with people who've had their business for 20 years. They've supported their family with it, but now they want to retire. And so we do try to help them find a capital gains friendly exit. And there's several ways we can do this. But a lot of people are just ready to retire at this point in time after 20 or 30 years in the business. Many of these, because they've been doing it for so long, are poorly managed. That is something we look for because that's our opportunity to improve income and therefore, improve value. So a lot of them don't have a website, like I said. Many don't have any kind of professional management. They're just winging it on their spare time, sitting in the office for a few hours a day. And so that on-site manager also is wearing way too many hats. They are not only answering the phone and signing people up, they're going out and sweeping out the units when it's time for a turnover, picking up the trash, making minor repairs. That means they're not necessarily in the office when someone comes to rent. Also, a lot of people, if your office is open 9 to 5 or even 8 to 6, a lot of people work during those hours and aren't even able to contact someone to rent. So having a website that works well is really important. So, because of all these things, customers aren't as happy. They're not as well taken care of as what we're able to do. Most of them have rents well below the competitors. Um, and their management is often giving big discounts to friends and family. So that's just money you're just throwing out the door. And a lot of times, because they've had the same customers for so long, they're not wanting to give them rate increases because they've become their friends. So there's just a lot of opportunity here where they're comfortable with this very sort of mediocre operation. We can come in and really make it better and take better care of the customers. So it's just really, we're looking for the low hanging fruit where we can improve the management, bring in tenant protection, increase occupancy, improve collections, and also a lot of times bring in other things like we have been able to bring in climate control into one of our properties. You can bring in RV or boat storage if you have the space and expand in other ways. And we bring in, motion sensors and tenant protection and all those things that are additional ancillary income.
so how do we do it? What is the weekly way? We acquire, which typically takes about 90 days. Our structures are mostly the LPGP, which we do through our fund, the weekly fund, or we do a joint venture, which is just, it's not a common structure, but it's one that we're open to. We improve, we we make all the changes if we need to redo roofs, if we need to paint, we need to redo driveways, whatever the CapEx need is called for, we take care of that. And then we work on achieving occupancy over 80% or whatever market is for that asset. Our general plan is to hold for 3 to 5 years, and we don't buy an asset unless we can target an average annualized return of 20% for our investor partners. And we also don't buy assets that are not cash flowing. They have to be cash flowing day one. We have to be able to begin our distributions to our investors, if not after the first full 3 months of ownership, then after the first six full months of ownership. And then on exit, we share in the upside with our investor partners, and we sell when we are able to reach our target, and the exit has a very favorable climate. It's a good time to exit. So if we hit our 3 years or 2 years, whatever that plan is, if it's not a favorable time, then we need to hang on. If it is favorable earlier or a little bit later, then that's when we exit.
Yeah.
How do we build this value? So, unlike traditional real estate, residential real estate, where your value is based on what your neighbor's house sold for, commercial real estate is based on your actual income. And when you can increase your income or reduce expenses, the combination of those two, that increases your overall net operating income.
Mhm.
And what does that do for you? Well, for example, if you can increase your operating income by $100,000, and then you can apply a cap rate to it. And if you're not familiar with what cap rate means, just think of it as a percentage rate that is commonly used to assess the value. So you divide by that cap rate, and that's what your increase in value is. So at an 8 cap rate, then 100,000 is equal to $1.25 million in value. Cap rates for self-storage right now are between 4 and 8%, and that depends on a lot of factors, but it also, a part of it is what stage is that property in? Is it fully leased up and, running in a well-oiled machine? Then it's going to have a slightly higher cap rate. Does it have a lot of room for improvements? Then it's going to have a lower cap rate. But this is basically how we build value. And we'll go into this again when we apply this to our example. So let's get into the case study. This is Access Mead. We took possession of this facility on July 23rd of 2025, and Margot's going to give you some details about it.
Yeah. So we purchased this property for 4.4 million and took possession on July 23rd last year. We brought in 1.25 million of equity from our investor pool, and we were able to get seller financing that was very attractive. Our first 3 years are 5% interest only. The next 3 years are 6% interest only. And then the remaining 4 years are 6% amortized, so principal and interest. So we are set for a full 10 years, which is way longer than we need to hold this property. We have three
But
assets.
Margot, hang on one second.
Mhm.
A lot of times when a lot of deals out there that are going sideways on people, and when people say you have to buy right,
Mhm.
the financing is one of the major areas where people are having problems with their deals right now because they bought with 2 year financing with the assumption that I can just refinance.
45. Yep.
And so this deal is super solid because we have 10 years of really of known financing. We know exactly what's going on. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
That's okay. So we have three asset classes. So investors that come in with $50,000 get a preferred return of 7% and we're targeting an average return of 20% annualized. So what that means is over the course of the first full year, they will earn 7% of their total return. Class B is $100,000 or more investment. They're going to get a 10% preferred return and a projected return average return annually of 22%. And Class C are for people who bring in $250,000 or more. Their targeted preferred return is 12%, and their average annualized return is targeted at 24%. So the more you bring in, the more you're going to earn. The property is located in the city of Meade, which is just a little bit north of Spokane and part of the Spokane Valley MSA. And it's in a really great location on the path of progress. There are several new homes communities being built, a huge brand new freeway system that is just kind of being finished right about now. So it's in a great location with great, more people coming in. The facility is a little over 45,000 net rentable square feet on 2.5 acres. It has 268 non-climate control units, and that's all there's room for there. It was built in 1986, and the occupancy when we purchased it was 81% physical occupancy by square feet, not by number of units. And that just makes a little bit of difference in how you look at it.
So this property really fit our buy box. The seller had a couple of partners who were not pulling their weight, and he had been managing it on his own and kind of self-managing it on his own for a number of years. He had a husband and wife team on site, living on site, managing it, but during COVID, there were health issues. The husband did not make it through COVID. The wife of understandably, was in despair, and occupancy went from the high 90s down to the 70s, high 70s. And she just kind of, she wasn't in it. And so that was a problem. So he was ready to cash out, and his partners were ready to cash out. And so that's why we got the great seller financing. He got cash up front. He's still getting a lot of income, and he's going to have that income guaranteed for at least 5 years because that's the agreement that we have.
Yeah.
It was, again, poorly managed. You had an on-site manager with not tech savvy at all, no advertising whatsoever. They had a website, but they didn't do anything with it. They did not have a Google profile page. Nobody knew about them. It's, they were very much just word of mouth. And their customer service was only 5 days a week from 8 to 5 p.m., which, if you had questions after that, too bad. You just couldn't get your questions answered. And the rents were, so when we look at rents, we look at what is the market rent? So the competitors in the area. What is the property's rents? And then where is the improvement there? So you have the average rents that were well below the comp set. And then you have, even within the facility, rents that were well below the average. So there was just a lot of room to bring property rents up to average, and then to even increase further. We can still increase and not even hit the top of the market. We still have a plan that will be about 10% below market and still do really well with this property. We also have the opportunity. There was no tenant protection. There was, a lot of the ancillary income was just not being generated. They were minimally charging late fees. There was just a lot of opportunity here.
Yeah. So we do a number of things when we prepare to buy a property during our due diligence period. We do a survey and we do a phase one, which is a type of inspection. We do a regular inspection. We get an appraisal. The other thing we do is a feasibility study, and we bring in a company that looks at all aspects of the property and how it's operating, and they give us a score, a report card. And so these are the different areas that they scored us on. And as you'll see, the only two where we really didn't get high marks are condition and curb appeal. And the great thing about that is those are the things that we can fix. We can't really fix location or traffic count or how you access from the highway, but condition and curb appeal, those are what we love because we can come in and fix them very easily and improve the property in that way. And that's all part of our business plan. And speaking of our business plan, so the purchase price first we acquire it, and the purchase price, like I said, was 4.4 million, and the all in with all of our costs was just under 5 million. We come in and we do our CapEx as quickly as possible. And in this case, we had almost all of it done within 3 months. And we're at this point, we're just waiting for our sign to arrive. We had a custom sign built, and it's actually on the way right now. So it may be installed by the end of this month or the first week of February. That's exciting. But we had everything arranged. Like we said, we have all that set up and under contract before we even purchase. Um, then we manage. We manage all the different things we've talked about. We improve rents. We improve marketing. We have a better website. We bring in a third-party management company that's a real professional company that oversees everything. And then ultimately, after our target period, or really our target numbers are reached, we sell, and we estimate that in year 5, we can sell for over $7 million at a 7 cap rate. So what are the keys to this? What are the important things? Like I said, one of the things is bringing on a really top-notch third-party management company. So we have one that we have on all of our properties, and they're really a leader in the industry with remote and hybrid management styles. So this is where we have this opportunity to improve that big expense line on our profit and loss statement with getting rid of payroll, or most of what we pay for people. They have a silo management style that brings all the best practices into place. And one of the things that's so great is they have a call center. So unlike where, you're trying to call the office and get the manager on the phone, there is someone there for far extended hours. I believe it's like 6 or 7 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. It's a very long period of time that you can always get someone on the phone. They're trained to know about your property. They can help with all the problems. So they have a great track record of success over decades of management. We do our repairs, which we paint every time, make it all look spiffy and clean. We increase security. We bring in more cameras if needed, a whole new system if we have to. We improve the signage and curb appeal overall, and a lot of the like functional things, like how things are operating. Do the doors work? Does the hardware to open and close work? Just make everything nicer. And so,
Margo, let me jump in.
uh-huh.
So, as we said, we took possession on July 23rd. I believe it was a Wednesday.
Hmm.
And by Friday or Saturday,
Yeah.
our painters were on site painting. And we have a fantastic national painting company that gives us a really great rate. They run a couple of crews around the country. Again, self-storage, this is just a different animal altogether. So, this company, they have a couple of crews. They were going to be in our area. We scheduled them. Within 4 or 5 days, the entire facility was painted. And that speed minimizes the disruption to overall operations. And as far as, like our door repairs, for this facility, our 5 by 10 units, the vast majority of them were essentially down because the doors were very difficult to open and close. And so the seller, again, he was making money hand over fist as far as he was concerned. So he didn't care if those units were leased up or not. But we care. We want those units to be leased up. And so we had to come up with a solution to replace the opener that doesn't even exist anymore. It was so old and such a terrible product, they don't even make it
Obsolete.
anymore. Obsolete. And it was causing damage to the neighboring units. When it would swing open, it would damage a unit next to it. So we came up with a great solution and got all of those units back online. And again, all of this was within less
Yeah.
than 3 months of work.
Yep.
You
Yep.
can't do that with other asset classes. And as
Yep.
Margot said, the only thing that we're waiting on now is our sign.
Yeah. Yeah. So our business plan is to, continuously watch over the property. We do have this third-party management company, but, Christy and I are also on top of it all the time.
Right.
And we
And
correct as necessary. And you can course correct with self-storage so
right,
easily, like we said, because you have month leases, You have the ability to change your rents quickly and easily. There are so many things we can do to cut off things that in other asset classes could be real problems because of the length of time that they can go on before you can fix them.
Right. So let's talk numbers. Um, when we purchased the property, the net operating income was just under $250,000. And our plan is gradual increases every year. Um, and that is going to get us up to almost, well, more than doubling to over 500,000, our NOI at the end of 5 years. Interesting things that we're doing is we're adding our tenant protection. Um, we also have added our motion sensors in units, which is more money than tenant protection, actually. And one of the things that we do when we underwrite is we underwrite very, very conservatively. So our projections on our year one numbers are already looking better than the numbers that we're seeing here. And we're super excited about that. So we have all of our projections here. And the important thing is, look, 250,000 in NOI increase. That, and we'll talk about what that means in just a minute. But
Yeah. So we also do a lot of reporting to our investors. We feel like as investors, they are most comfortable if they know what's going on. And we not only do a quarterly newsletter and report on what's going on at the facility, and in the beginning, especially when there's construction going on, those are pretty meaty. And we also will record when we're on site or if something special is happening, send out a little special video or message with pictures to keep them on track with what's going on. So you can see here with because the Mead property is relatively new. Here's just some examples with one of our other properties of the types of things that we send out quarterly and in between as well to keep everybody on top of things. So here is sort of a sample for our Class B in the Mead property. So if someone were to invest $100,000 each year while we're operating, they would get $10,000. That's their 10 pref. And then at the end of year five, when we sell, they'll get their $100,000 back. And then there's $60,000, which is part of their equity at the end. So their total cash flow is $170,000 from this $100,000 investment. And that's an annualized return of 22% and an over 2 time equity multiple. And the IRR for those who are into that is over 18%, which is great.
how do the numbers actually translate? So when I showed you the 5 year pro forma and we had the over $250,000, the $258,000 increase in net operating income, how does that actually translate? Well, at a 7 cap, that's over $3.6 million in value created. And that's how we can um, pay not only our pref during the holding period, which comes from income, but on exit, this is part of what is divided up to pay that additional to get our investors to the 20% average annualized, 22% average annualized, or 24% average annualized. It's magical. And this is why we love commercial real estate, because we can predictably create these types of scenarios. And so this just shows some of the improvements that we did. We talked about our sign. This was the old sign. You can tell it's old because it doesn't even have an area code on it.
Really
Uh,
old.
really old. And this is our new sign. And as Margot said, it should be going in shortly. We had a lot of masonry work that happened. So we had a mason come through and rebuild for us. These were the on the 5x10s, the very awkward door handles that we had that were causing damage, and we were able to put on some new nice sliders that also allow us to operate the facility better. With the old style, if someone didn't pay and you needed to overlock them or prevent them from entering, you couldn't do it. With the new ones, you can overlock, which means put a double lock onto their unit to prevent them from entering. We also did a lot with our building signage. We got brand new signage, and we painted. Clearly, we painted. So these are just a few of the improvements that we did for the facility.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for watching. We hope you got some great information out of this. But right now, we'd be happy to take questions. You can put them in the chat and we'll take a look at that and see what's there. Or if you'd like to, just raise your hand and we'd be happy to answer your questions. Let's see.
So let's take a look. We do have a couple of questions in the chat. Samir asks, when adding a boat and RV storage, isn't it more of a to add value add to buy a boat and RV lot and add units instead? It depends. If you have, so at one of our properties, we have almost an acre of parking lot, and we're utilizing it for our budget truck rental business. But it is definitely cheaper to throw some stripes down on that lot and
Mhm.
invite people in. I mean,
Can't
how
be
much
cheaper
does
than that.
Right. It can't be
Yeah,
cheaper. How much
a
does
little
it
paint.
cost to stripe
Yeah.
a lot,
Yep.
and then you're on for RVs, you're going to make what, at least 100 per, 100 or more per.
Yeah.
So it definitely is cheap. And it depends as far as adding units, that cost varies greatly depending on who you have do it. We have some great people that do our additions and we love them, but there are many people out there in many different price ranges to pay. But
Yeah.
definitely striping is cheap. And you can always take that income and then later add units if that's what you want.
Mhm. And
Um,
then Agnieszka, if I said your name wrong, I apologize. She asked if we purchase storage facilities already in operation or have we done ground up. We don't do ground up. That's just not our thing.
yeah,
And a big part of the reason is that, it's usually at least a year and a half or 2 years before you can begin to even give any kind of returns to your investors. And so that's not what our investors' appetite is for. So our buy box is pretty much what we said. We like to buy the older properties or properties that we can improve physically or with management.
great.
Oh, thank you,
Ray
Donna.
Garcia, you have your hand up. You want to come off mute and ask your question?
Yeah, thank you. I joined a little late, so I'm not sure if you covered it, but is this 506C, 506B offering?
It's
Or
not a sale presentation at all. That
oh,
property that
okay.
we presented,
Yeah.
we
Sorry.
closed on it. The raise is done. This is
Oh, okay.
purely
Mhm.
an
We're listening.
educational.
Yeah.
That's all right. This is purely
Yep.
educational. What I suggest, I mean, we have your contact information, and when we have more education in the future, when we have our next deal, we'll let you know. But thank you
Yeah.
for participating, and thank you
Yeah.
for listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Had one more question real quick. In properties like this one, it's all unclimate controlled. Is it typical,
This one.
or is it to add in climate controlled units, or is it not typical? I mean, do you change some over to climate controlled or not?
It,
It depends would be the answer, kind of. But for a facility like Mead, adding climate control would be cost prohibitive.
we
Uh,
also,
and it
yeah.
and it's just not right for that market.
Yeah.
You have to know what your market needs, and that market does not have a lot of climate control, and it's just not a market for climate control. It gets cold. It doesn't get hot and humid as
Right.
like someplace in the South would. So it's not necessarily a need. heated might be nice, but it's again, it's not a necessity and
Yeah.
it's cost prohibitive.
Yeah. And most people aren't going to pay extra for a heated unit. The reality is when you get a self-storage unit, maybe you'll go there once or twice a year, unless you're a business using it on a regular basis. But even still, you're in, get what you want and leave, or in, put what you want in there and leave. It's not where you're staying and hanging out.
Right,
So, other than to protect your property, there's not a whole lot of reason for it.
right. And you protect from mold, not from frost so much.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not damp. It's probably not damp enough there for things to get frosty, you know.
Yeah.
And it depends too. We look for properties and find opportunities wherever they are. We don't just invest in a specific area. We're open to most any area. There are some minor exceptions, but it depends on what's there. If we find something where the opportunity makes sense, like the property we bought in Jackson, Mississippi, that had a vacant retail building on the property, we
Right,
did. We put climate control there because the opportunity was there. It was a slam dunk. But we don't necessarily look for properties just to do that.
right. Daniel, you can come off mute.
Okay. Hey, all right, one second. Hey, Christy and Margot, great presentation.
Thank
Can you hear
you.
me? Okay.
Yes.
Is there a vacancy rate like on typically on storage? We deal with smaller multifamily, so is there like storage is new to me, very interesting. So vacancy rate, is there like a typical percentage or?
Right now, about 85% occupancy is the norm. And that is going to vary by market, but 85% occupancy is the norm. One of the biggest differences between multifamily and self-storage is the minimum occupancy that you need for break even. In storage, it's like 45, 50%,
Yeah.
just because the costs to run it are so much less. Our expense ratios are more like 35% on the high side when you are a well-run facility. It may take us a little while to get there, but usually that's our expense ratio. And then you add on your costs for your mortgage, taxes, etc. And so you were at 45, 50%. Whereas with multifamily, you're closer to 70%. So, it kind of is a different animal when you're talking about occupancy, but 85%. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, absolutely. And a quick another one. So like as far as like security, right? I mean, I've rented a storage once, back in New York, it was a factory warehouse turned into, climate controlled, obviously, securities, with cameras on every floor. That was kind of what my initial, in the ones you are acquiring, there is no security or just like gates that people can
Oh,
control to come in and out.
we have cameras and everywhere. We do have gates. You have to have a code to come in and out. So, and we have eight, 8 or 12, 8 foot fences, I think, on both of
Mhm.
them, with barbed wire on top. So, they're pretty secure. One of the questions that I see Sarah asked, and I'll just sort of tag on to what you said about issues with security. Well, it's interesting. One of our properties, is in an area where a lot of the other properties around or in the town, the city, have had some break-ins. We have not, and that's because we are well managed. We have someone who's our boots on the ground, who's there, who has formed good relationships with the homeless population, and
Okay.
they know he's no
Right.
nonsense, and he's very present and visible. But again, we have cameras and fences and all those types of things. And in addition, we have introduced into our properties this storage defender, which Christy mentioned earlier, which is a motion sensor that you can have in your unit. And if you have that and there's something moving in your unit, you will get a text message, you'll get an alert, and
Right.
then we can send our local person to take a look at it, look at our cameras or whatever we need to do, and send the police if necessary. So,
And for us, if you it so that's from an individual renter standpoint. From
mhm,
an operator standpoint, if you have one sensor go off, okay. If you have two sensors or three sensors, there's a big problem. And
yeah,
so you can quickly have a response happen for you. So these are things that we do. And by putting up signs, if we have a sign that says we have in-unit motion sensors and the facility down the street doesn't, where are they going to go? It's
right.
that
Right.
just that kind of
Yeah,
thing. It's just like everybody has the Ring doorbell. You don't have the Ring doorbell because you are waiting for someone to break in. You have
yeah,
it just for kind of peace of mind,
right, right.
just what's going on,
Yeah.
more along that
And
line.
Sounds.
also like Christy said, if there's, more than one unit broken into, that's kind of an indicator. And that does tend to be what happens. If someone breaks in, they're going to break into multiple units. In the interest of full disclosure, we have had a break-in at one of our properties. And the thing that was interesting is they broke in, they went straight to one unit, they opened it, they took two specific things out, and they left. So we know it was targeted.
Right.
We don't know quite exactly why or what happened, but it was not like there's a problem there. But we did have cameras, and we were able to, we were able to
Yeah.
see what happened. So, and they only hit the one unit. So just to be fully disclosing things.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. And one last quick question, right? So we deal with, with evictions, right, in residential units. So for non-payers, right, and evictions, do you auction off? Who takes care of that? Is that a property manager? How do you deal with that?
Samir had the same question.
Mhm.
And first off, it's not like you see on TV where a bunch of people come to the auction and they're, bidding. It's all
It's
online.
online.
Your boots on the ground opens the unit, takes pictures of the unit. There are multiple online auction companies. It's all online. And this is what's great. Another big difference between storage and multifamily. In multifamily, when someone doesn't pay and you take possession of that
Mhm.
unit, you are then responsible for cleaning out that unit and dealing with it. In storage, you auction that unit off, someone buys that unit for $100, $200, whatever it is, it's their responsibility to come and clean that unit and leave
Mhm.
it broom clean. And that's awesome. That saves you a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it's great. And every state has different rules around the auction process and what you have to do. Our biggest problem, believe it or not, is when someone dies.
Right.
And then that unit, if someone dies, we have to, find the relative and go through a whole different process. So that is what takes a long time. If it's just a regular auction unit, depending on the state, it's 30, 60 days, 90
Yeah.
days on the
Yeah.
long side, but it's not that long. And it
Much
and it's
simpler.
easy.
And you don't
Much,
need
much
sheriffs
simpler.
to come in and things like that. It's
No,
just so
no.
simple. Just
And
an
it's
auction.
Got it.
cheaper. It's a much cheaper
Yeah.
process.
Thank you. Thanks for
Sure.
all the answers. Great
No
job.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you. Let's see here.
How do we research our storage locations and then sort of tagging on when looking for a market? Are you looking at the same factors when looking for multifamily? We are pretty open to, like I said, almost any area. There's a few things that we sort of shy away from, mostly because of insurance costs, like
Right.
the Gulf Coast and Southern Florida. But that's the only real reason. Um, and so we're open to most any area. And like Christy talked about with the brokers, we find our properties through broker relationships. We have done at times some specific owner, outreach to
Go
owners,
direct.
but the most successful thing is going through brokers. We have some
Right.
brokers that love us. They send us the, deals as soon as they get them because they know if we say we're going to close, that we'll close. They know that we'll follow through. And so that's how we get them. And then as far as the factors, they're not the same as multifamily.
Right.
Um, you know, the, A, B, C, D property isn't all that relevant. Yes, the age of the
Right.
property may determine some of what you have to repair, but again, we're not looking at, wiring from the 1970s and things like that generally. And if we are, it's a minor fix because everything's pretty much exposed. But we don't have to worry about that. Oh, I just had something else I was going to say and it went right out of my head. But it's just a very different kind of
An-
property analysis and decision.
another thing that's very different with storage versus other asset
Yes, it
classes
is.
is
Yes.
it's I I feel far more open to tertiary markets
Mhm.
than I would feel with multifamily. So there was a deal that recently crossed my desk, and it's in a tertiary market. There's two facilities in that particular market. So if we bought it, we have the opportunity to be the 800-pound gorilla. The other facility is like 20% of the size of the one that I was looking at. And, the only reason that I kind of am passing on it is because I don't necessarily like my exit cap
You don't.
projection. And, the way that Margot and I underwrite and look at deals is our investors are first. Our investors, we usually, we don't usually make income year one, but our investors make money day one. And
Mhm.
so our money is really made on the backside. And when we say class A is doing 20% average annualized or, 22, whatever that number is, we that's how we target. If we do a poor job, all the money goes to the investors on the back end. If we do as we should, then
We're
the
better.
investor is going to get their 20, 22, 24%, whatever that number is. And then we get after that. We get paid after that. And the way we look, we know and we value our investors and we appreciate our investors. And the way that we look at it is, hey, if you're happy to get 20 to 24% average annualized, um, great. You are the exact type of investor that we want to work with. If you're looking for 30%, you're probably not you're not the right investor for us, because we look at it as if we kill it, if we absolutely kill it, then
Mhm.
great. My sleepless nights and weekends and my headache for 5 years gets rewarded. And so, but that's just kind of how we look at it. So
I-
we, and Margot mentioned our great broker relationships. I had a broker this morning message me, text me and say, hey, I've got something, that I want for you. I'm like, all right, because they know my buy box. They know what my preferences are. They know where I'm willing to give a little bit, but they also know if I underwrite it and I say, Margot and I can do this, we can do it.
Yeah.
And I will tell them, ooh, that's not the right deal for us.
Yeah.
We give good feedback. So,
One other thing I wanted to sort of add on to kind of complete the answer to Samira's question, and in terms of looking at the same factors as multifamily, the ABCD doesn't matter so much with the building, like I said, nor does the area necessarily. A lot of self-storages are on the edge of like an industrial park or something like that, an industrial area. So that isn't that important. And it isn't important to customers. Like Christy said, we have what you would consider A, B, C customers and businesses and people with their fun toys all in the same facility.
right.
So
They
it's
want to
just
know that
not
their
the
stuff is
same.
safe,
Yep.
and they don't want to drive more than about 10 minutes.
Yep.
That's what matters. So within 10 minutes, you can drive to an industrial area, you can drive to a business park, you can drive to kind of a neighborhood. It's There's a lot of other factors that go into self-storage, and we have spent several years understanding this a lot better. And so again, if you can't tell, we love storage. We're super excited. Anyway, we
Yep.
have taken up an hour of your time and we appreciate everyone
Yeah.
joining. And if you are live with us, thank you so much. If you're watching
Yes.
this on the replay, also thank you so much. We appreciate it. And please, watch out for our other educational videos and information. This is what
Yeah.
we do and this is what we love doing.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.